Okay, so we're gonna move on to some cleaning. I've had the jets and stuff soaking for maybe an hour or so. A little bit of foaming degreaser on these guys. We're gonna try and clean up these guys a little bit. We'll work on the bowls and stuff a little bit later. Just kind of give things a little bit of a scrub, see if we can make them a little nicer. Like these little guys. Got my toothbrush. I have a paintbrush there too for the larger areas if we need it. I have this foaming degreaser that I put on here. It works pretty good for getting off some of the tougher stuff. And of course, brake clean always does a good job getting off some of the nasty stuff. Yeah, this guy's not super nice, is it? As you can see, I have my safety gloves on. Safety first. Yeah, she's really not so nice, that one. That soak a little more. I think we'll try and clean this guy up. To do that, I'm gonna have my rag handy. This guy gets a little bit of corrosion around this ring where the gasket sits, where this meets up with the rest of the body. It's this white flaky stuff. Similar to if you're doing an oil pan or a valve cover gasket or something, you know, you want to clean off any of this stuff before you put the new one on. In our case, the sealing point is here, which is fine. I just like it to be a little bit cleaner, you know. So there's one. You know, before and after. It's not amazing, but you know, it's a little bit nicer. You could always hit this with a polishing wheel too and clean it right up nice, if you were really so inclined. I am not, so we're not going to do that. I just wanted to look a little nicer, you know, put a little bit of effort into it. Yeah, so that's good. About as good as it's going to get anyway, so. Again, you could go a lot crazier with cleaning this up, but I just want to take the worst of it off, make it look a little nicer. Be a lot easier to see if there's leaks and stuff with it cleaned up. There we go. I don't think this guy's going to come a whole lot nicer. It kind of is what it is, I think. There we go, a little wire brush action. Got it a little better. Cool. Now, dump this out in my jug. I don't know if you can see. Anyway, it's not going to come super perfectly clean, but it's important to get the loose crud off the surface, you know. You could go crazy and polish them right down to shiny brass again, but it's going to make no difference whatsoever in the operation of it. Realistically, the abrasion just from the rag is probably enough to clean these to where I'm satisfied with them. There's nothing, if I can't scrape anything off the surface with my fingernail, I consider that plenty clean. And you want to just blow out any cleaner solution that might be in there. Have a look in your holes, make sure your holes are clear. That guy's good too. Yeah, he looks nice too. This one you can see is pretty dark. I'm gonna see if I can clean that up. A little bit of 320. This one's a little heavier built up, so I want to just make sure it gets cleaned down so none of that buildup flakes off and plugs up that little tiny jets. Don't need a lot of pressure, just a little bit, just to say it's contacting. If I did more of these, I'd buy myself a sonic bath, but I can't justify the cost just to do one set a year kind of thing. I feel like that would probably clean it up a lot nicer. You can see a little shinier. We got most of the buildup off of it. Should have no issues with that now. Should be good. So he's done. Okay, so Little interruption, but I'm back. Here we go. This guy's all cleaned up and happy. This guy's really just going to need a wipe down. He was functioning fine, so no issue with him. Just a little bit of a polish to get the loose crud off. Just kind of blow the fluid out of it. He's good. Now these guys, they get a ring right around here from running on the seat all the time. If that gets too deep, this guy could stick. So you want to feel it and see if there's a lip. This one is smooth, so he's going to get reused. All right, carburetor 2. I like to use one or two little bristles from the toothbrush to go right down in that hole. They're soft enough that they're not going to damage the jet, but they will poke out any kind of junk that might be in there, you know. Good. Done with those guys. So now I guess we'll clean up our bowls so that we can put these back on and start testing some diaphragms, see if we can find a good diaphragm. Also, I'm going to soak these guys like this above that seam. So if any cracks exist, I should be able to determine, you know, you can shake it and you can hear if there's any liquid inside after it's soaked for a little while. You just need to make sure that the liquid is above the split. Maybe we'll even put a little more. There we go. Put him to the back. All right. So now you really want to make sure you get into all the corners. Make sure there's no room for anything to hide. If you've got anything that's stubborn and stuck on there, your little flathead screwdriver will do the job to just loosen that stuff up. Like in the bottom here, we've got a little like a burr from the molding process, and it was collecting a little bit of stuff. Same with right here, there's a little bit of imperfection in the casting, which is holding some dirt. But that should Should be pretty good. Yeah, look at that, eh? Nice and shiny. You can see there's like crud around here, right? I want to try and look. We'll maybe scrape some of that away just so that it doesn't accidentally go in the bowl while we're putting it back together. Now that we know that everything is clean, even if a bit of stuff falls in the bowl at this point, we can just rinse it after. You're always going to want to do a rinse right before you assemble it anyway. So now that we know that it's clean, we know what it looks like when it's clean, we can get it back to that same place easily. Obviously keep a rag handy for wiping things down. And these things too, you see how this gasket is split in a bunch of pieces, this little rubber sleeve. The rebuild kit, I believe, comes with more of those right there. And that just keeps moisture and stuff from going down into where the fuel is. Keeps like a slide pin on your brake caliper, you know. Same kind of idea. See, that one was broken for a while, so the pin is actually not so nice looking. So we'll give it a little 320 action too, just to make sure that it moves and returns and all the things it's supposed to do properly. There we go. Nicer. You don't put any grease or anything on it. It's supposed to just run dry. It runs in this brass sleeve, so it's not necessary to have any kind of grease or anything. And then a new boot just kind of wiggles in place like that. And then when we put our pin back in, it's got a little detent right here, and that's going to pop into that little spot from the other direction, and that's it. Brand new. Okay, back to the scrapings. Want to take some time and make sure that you get this powdery corrosion off of the gasket. If it's too built up, just put a new gasket. But they can usually be cleaned up pretty well. And even if it does leak after, I mean, you've got to check it anyway, and then if it leaks, you know you got to replace it. Pretty simple. All right, let's work on this side. Parts washer would be good for this too. Just like a regular Varsol bath with the brush would work pretty well, but I don't have one of those either. Sometimes you just got to do the best you can with what you got. The main reason you really want to do this is so that you can actually see if there's leaks happening. You know, it's much easier to see if the surface is clean and tidy as opposed to old and greasy and dirty. Especially around like the mating surface edges and stuff, wherever one surface meets another where there's a gasket, you want to be able to see that and see what it's doing. Oh yeah, foamy action stuff works good. Now, this looks kind of gross, but that's just the cleaner pushing the dirt around. If you give it a rinse off with your brake cleaner, you'll see it's actually much nicer than you thought it was. Well, there's after, and that's a before. So, you know, it's definitely better. Definitely better for sure. There we go. That's pretty nice. Pretty tidy. Not perfect, but acceptable. A little rinse on the inside here. All right. Next, I think we're going to put these diaphragms back in and check them. Check this vacuum line. It's good. Actually, since we're here, make him a little nicer. Now, we've got one of these for each side. One of these for each side. We got one of these for each side. And we should have just for fun, I'm going to put the original ones back in and see if they were just maybe not seated properly or something before I go changing them. Because they do appear to be in good shape. You don't need a lot of torque when you're tightening these down too, just turn it down to where it like stops and then give it a little like 1/8 of a turn maybe. That's it. It should be good to go. We're going to check these one side at a time. Check this side. that one is good. I'm sure that you can't see that moving down there, but you can hear the noise anyway. So that one is good. This guy we can clean up and put back together though. And there we go. That's our pump diaphragm back together. Fits nice and easily, no issues there. Sometimes loosen them off until you get all the screws started. That way the screws can wiggle a little bit into their position like that. And then tighten her down. And now we should have, oh yeah, you can hear it, it's working good. So bowls are clean, we'll put those to the side because they're good. And I'm not sure what we'll do next. Maybe we'll do the body of the carburetor, fix up those bent lines and stuff like that, and get it maybe cleaned up a little bit. Get some of these parts away. I'm going to keep this diaphragm because it was working, so I think I'll keep it as a spare just because. So yeah, we've got our jets and stuff done. Caps are cleaned up. I think next we'll you know, give this guy a bit of a scrub in a few places. Just kind of make it a little cleaner and tidier. And we'll change this guy. So we also need to fix this bent line, replace this breather tube, you know, just check all the little bits and change them up, whatever needs to be done. You know, clean up this corrosion and crap on here. Just, yeah, so that's next. All right, thought I'd change into my fancy coveralls, and I think we'll keep going on the carburetor work here. Okay, I think I should check the floats. They sound all right. Just gonna hold them up to the light because they are transparent. And have a look-see. Shouldn't say transparent, they're translucent. Or opaque, you could say. This one looks all right. That one looks all right too. Sweet. So I'll keep that there. Okay, I think we'll clean these two guys up since they're right here and get them out of our way. These carb mounts I'm just gonna put up in the stock area here. All right, so I'm gonna leave the hoses on. This is more of just a wipe down. Get rid of the greasy looking areas. It's not perfect, but at least you don't get black when you touch it now. So That's a nice thing, you know. It's not every day in this on this car that you get to touch something and not get greasy. Do the same with this guy. I gotta say, I'm really thinking hard about that ultrasonic bath. I feel like it could be useful in a lot more areas than just carburetor cleaning. I feel like a lot of the parts on the car could be tossed in there and cleaned up, so I might have to look at that a little more seriously. Now I gotta hang this guy somewhere. There we go. All right, this guy. Take him off first, I think. It's not a 19. 22 should do it. There we go. So, let's see, the end of that is rotten. No good. I'm not going to put a pipe on there or ask anyone else to. So, garbage. We're going to use this guy. There we go. I think that's pretty good. A lot cleaner than it was. I'll probably spray a little bit of fresh lithium grease or something on all the mechanisms just to put something back on them. They're probably fine, but I prefer if they had a little bit of something on there. But yeah, not too shabby. All right, done. Ready for some more work. All right, so this guy, you can see the angle on this pipe. It's supposed to come a lot more straight. This bracket's bent, this pipe is bent here, this is all bent out of place. So I think I'm going to start here with my custom bending tool. Okay, that's back. More custom bending. That's not terrible. out. Now we need another one. And I happen to have this line right here. Way too big. I wonder if we can actually use vacuum line on that. I think we probably can. Is just a breather tube after all. They just labeled it, not even labeled, but they made it red to indicate that it was fuel. Instead of it being black like all the vacuum lines. But that will work just fine. In fact, actually on the inside, if you look, it's black. It just has a red rubber covering on the black pipe. So, like I said, it's just there for indication of fuel. So we know that line is not a vacuum line. It's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. All right. This fuel line is good. Clamps are on. That one's fine. Inlet's fine. Wiring here for our choke heater feels good. You can learn more about the choke system in my other videos. I have, I think, 2 that go over all the functions of the choke and how it's supposed to operate, from the heater to the staircase. You know, when you set the choke, the staircase comes on, like all of that stuff. So yeah, check out those other videos if you're more curious about how the choke functions. I'm not gonna get into it on this one. This guy, like I said, they're stiff, but they're there, they're connected, so it's gonna work. This guy is bent for sure. Now, we want to clean up this gross buildup here so that our water pipes will seat nicely on there. I'm just going to use the pliers to loosen up the worst of it. As you can see, big chunks of it are falling off like it's big flaky gross stuff. So something a little more aggressive is needed at the beginning. Once you get the worst of it off, you can move to sandpaper or something, but that big chunky flaky stuff off, job for the pliers. Or a file, you know, if you had a file you could scrub it with that, you know, something like this. There we go, cleaned up. No more gross buildup on there. Cool. So that's good. This guy comes up here like this. That guy's good. That's fine. This is good. Now these guys are working a little hard. A little bit of resistance in there. So I'm going to hit it with just a bit of this dry lube, PTFE dry lube from WD-40 that I like to use. It says dry lube, but it's wet, you know, which is always interesting. Just going to get it in those joints a little bit. Yeah, that's good. Make sure your staircase works nice too. It should come all the way up when you pull the throttle open, and then the choke is supposed to push it off like this. But you see, it didn't go that first. See, it didn't go anywhere. That's supposed to spring back here like this. Sometimes the shaft gets a little bit of corrosion down in there, or build up with this greasy gunky stuff sometimes. And now you see if I push it all the way back, it's returning. Ooh, get a liar out of me. Well, I was recording and my camera glitched. So let me take you on a little recap quickly. Since I'm basically done, the staircase was not setting properly. Normally it's, as soon as you pull the throttle, it is supposed to lift like that. You see this little part right here? It was not, so it was getting stuck. I also freed up the choke flaps. They were not moving as easily as I thought maybe they should. But now all of that stuff is free and working. I checked all the other lines. I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but it's significantly better than it was. And I'm happy with that. So I was just noticing this crossover pipe looks a little gross. Maybe I can give it a wipe from this angle. Looks a little nicer. I mean, the term polishing a turd comes to mind, but you know, maybe we shouldn't go there. Anyway, so all the pipes are ready to go. Float bowls are ready to go. This is all cleaned up. I will give it a once over in here and in the throat area with the brake cleaner before I reassemble it, just to make sure that there's no dust or debris in there before I put it together. And I was just putting this valve back on, so I grabbed a new one of these guys because this one is all rotten and gross. And I was going to just say, when I noticed the camera was not running, that there is no Teflon tape on this from factory. This is a tapered thread, so it gets larger as it goes in. So all you have to do is crank this down until it's tight, and that's it. It's tight. Don't have to do anything more. I'm going to say that's good. That was a 22 millimeter, by the way, in case anyone is curious. All right, so next time, I think I'm going to call it a day. Next time, I'm going to reassemble, I think, because we don't need any parts ordered. I have everything here that I need. I got those power valves functioning, so that shouldn't be an issue. It's just a matter of deciding what gaskets I want to replace and which ones I don't.